In the Middle Ages, the path to becoming a knight began in childhood. By the age of 6 or 7, noble families faced a crucial decision regarding their sons' futures. Would they join the church or would they pursue a life outside of it? For those destined for the latter, knighthood was often the chosen path. Training began early to maximise their chances of becoming elite warriors, and this meant leaving home to train at the castle of a lord their father served, or, in some cases, under the guidance of an uncle. Ideally, this uncle would be from the mother's side to avoid potential conflicts over inheritance, which could arise if tutored by an uncle on his father's side. While knights are remembered as fearsome warriors, their training was about far more than just combat. They underwent years of rigorous preparation, learning the art of hunting, the discipline of serving at noble banquets, the precision of dressing properly, and the etiquette required to carry themselves with honour and courtesy. It was a long and grueling journey, but for those who endured, the reward was knighthood, the title of Sir, and the glory that came with it. In the medieval classroom, future knights were trained in far more than just combat. Since knighthood was deeply tied to Christian ideals of chivalry and duty, young squires were taught the principles of faith, the role of the church, and the importance of upholding Christian morals. Latin, the language of the church, and scholarly learning was essential, not only for reading religious texts, but also for understanding legal documents, noble charters, and the sacred oaths that they would one day swear as knights. Beyond this, they studied basic arithmetic to manage estates and calculate rations in times of war, as well as history and heraldry, which helped them recognise noble families and understand the legendary battles of the past. Some even learned poetry and music, as a true knight was expected to be cultured. While their days were filled with intense physical training, the classroom played a crucial role in shaping them into not just warriors, but honourable knights of the realm. For a noble boy, the most important goal was to master the art of combat on horseback. This required the ability to wield both lance and sword with precision, often at full gallop. Training began early, with young boys first riding ponies and practicing with wooden swords to develop the fundamentals before progressing to war horses and real weapons. Their instruction was often overseen by experienced knights who ensured they built the necessary strength, balance, and technique. To prepare for jousting, a common training tool was the quintain, a rotating pole with a shield or board attached. The goal was to strike the target cleanly while riding past at speed. If hit incorrectly, the quintain could swing unpredictably, forcing them to improve their aim, timing, and balance. As they grew older, the training intensified, often requiring them to train for hours in full armour, building the endurance needed for battle. Once these skills were mastered, jousting tournaments provided a proving ground, a place to test their abilities in high-speed, high-stakes combat, preparing them for the chaos of real warfare. Learning to hunt was a crucial part of a young squire's training, teaching him not only survival skills but also patience, strategy, and weapon mastery. Under the guidance of experienced hunters, squires learned how to track animals, read the signs of the forest, and move silently through the wilderness. They honed their skills with bows, crossbows, and spears, using these weapons to hunt deer, boar, and other game. Horseback training played a vital role here too, as hunting often required exceptional riding skills to chase down swift prey. The training instilled discipline and obedience, as squires followed strict rules about when and how to strike. They were also taught the proper ways to kill, butcher, and prepare game for the knightly household, ensuring that every part of the hunt was utilised. Through these lessons, future knights sharpened their instincts, aim, and battle readiness. But hunting was more than just practical, it also fostered social bonds among the squires, strengthening their teamwork and unity, which would prove invaluable on the battlefield in the future. As knights in training, young squires were expected to adhere to the chivalric code, which emphasised respect, humility, and service to others. They learned the art of courtesy in every aspect of their lives. At the Lord's table, they practiced proper manners, how to serve food, speak with refinement, and show respect to nobles and ladies. This also included maintaining a neat appearance, dressing properly and keeping themselves clean. Skills such as bowing correctly, addressing superiors by their proper titles, and knowing when to remain silent were essential aspects of their education. Beyond etiquette, squires also practiced conversation, poetry and even dance and music, as knights were expected to not just be warriors but cultured and charming figures in their communities. Games like chess were also part of their training, helping them develop strategic thinking and patience. The principles of courtesy extended far beyond the noble household. On the battlefield, knights were expected to show mercy to worthy opponents and uphold the ideals of honour and chivalry. This comprehensive training not only prepared squires to be respected warriors, but also to be valued members of noble society, bound by a deep sense of duty and respect. An essential part of courtesy training was learning how to dress properly. Knights' clothing was always handmade, expensive and crafted from fine fabrics like silk and wool, often dyed in rich colours using rare pigments. Cloaks were lined with fur and shoes were designed with long pointed toes, marking their noble status. Training also extended to the care and maintenance of armour. This began with the gambeson, a padded undercoat worn beneath chainmail or plate armour for cushioning. Squires learned how to properly fasten chainmail hauberks and adjust the weight of helmets for both comfort and effectiveness. Helmets came in various designs, so squires needed to learn how to properly fit and balance them. A key adjustment was the padded arming cap, which helped cushion the weight of the helmet, absorb blows and distribute the weight evenly across the head and neck. Some helmets, like the bassinet, even featured removable visors, which allowed knights to reduce weight and improve visibility. Beyond wearing armour, squires were also trained in maintaining both their garments and armour, learning to mend fabric, polish metal and ensure everything was functional and presentable. A knight's appearance was a reflection of his status, discipline and attention to detail. This training ingrained the importance of looking the part both in battle and in society, where a knight's outward appearance often spoke volumes about his inner qualities. The journey through knighthood training was divided into distinct stages: page, squire and finally knight. As a page, the young boy's responsibilities were focused on basic education and serving the knights. His duties included assisting at noble banquets, learning proper etiquette, setting tables, delivering messages and helping knights get dressed. He was also tasked with carrying food from the kitchen and ensuring the goblets were always filled, especially for those seated in positions of honour. These tasks introduced him to the daily workings of the court and taught him the obedience essential for his future role. If a page demonstrated discipline and capability, he would progress to the next stage, becoming a squire. As a squire, he would assist his knight in more hands-on ways, including helping him dress for battle, maintaining his armour and weapons, and caring for his horse. He would also accompany his knight to tournaments and sometimes even into battle. At this stage, squires sparred with real weapons, both on foot and horseback, and continued refining their skills in jousting and adhering to the code of chivalry. They also participated in mock battles and lower stakes jousting tournaments, showcasing their abilities before an audience of nobles. After years of training and proving his worth through his service and discipline, a squire could be deemed worthy of receiving the title of knight. The earliest recorded example of a full knighting ceremony dates back to 1128, when a young Geoffrey Plantagenet, who would later become the Count of Anjou and the father of Henry II of England, was knighted. The ceremony's primary purpose was to signify the boy's transition into manhood and mark his readiness to bear arms. In the 12th century, this often involved receiving a sword intended for use in battle and spurs symbolising the knight's role as a horseman. As the centuries progressed, the knighting ceremony grew more elaborate, becoming a deeply religious event by the 13th century. It was during this time that knights emphasised their belief that they could uphold the code of knighthood and remain devout Christians, a view often contested by the church as bishops typically did not participate in the ceremony. The night before the ceremony, the squire would partake in a vigil of prayer, spending hours in a chapel, fasting and contemplating the serious responsibilities of knighthood. On the morning of the ceremony, the young men would bathe, a ritual symbolising purification, washing away their sins and preparing for their new life as knights, warriors who fought for Christ. Afterwards, they would dress in armour and be presented with their sword and spurs. Kneeling, they would receive a symbolic tap of the blade on the shoulder, or occasionally a slap on the cheek, officially declaring them knights. They would then swear an oath to uphold the code of chivalry and prepare for the celebratory tournament and feast that would follow. Once the knighting ceremony had concluded, it was followed by a grand feast and a tournament, where the newly dubbed knights could showcase the skills they had honed during their training. The feast was a lavish affair, featuring roast meats, fine bread, wine and spiced dishes. Minstrels and troubadours performed, entertaining the noble guests with songs of chivalric deeds and epic poems, celebrating the heroism of knights. It was common for the new knight's lord or family to sponsor a tournament in his honour. This tournament served as both a public display of the knight's abilities and an opportunity for the nobles to show off their wealth and generosity. The tournament often featured different events, with the joust being one of the most popular. In this contest, knights would charge at each other on horseback, lances in hand, aiming to unseat their opponent. While blunted lances made the joust less lethal, serious injuries could still occur. Another event was the melee, a large-scale battle between two teams of knights, usually fought with blunted swords and axes. This event tested the knights' ability to fight in formation, mimicking the chaos of real battlefield conditions. There was also the skill at arms contest, which included sword duels, archery competitions, and mounted games like striking targets while galloping at full speed. These challenges allowed knights to demonstrate their proficiency in various aspects of warfare. The rewards from such tournaments were significant: gold, war horses, and even expensive armour. Victorious knights might also earn military service contracts or secure favourable marriage alliances. After all, the knights performed in front of some of the most powerful lords of the time. Demonstrating one's battle skills could lead to wealth, prestige, and valuable connections. Knighthood was more than just a title, it was a lifelong duty. Knights were expected to serve their lord, defend the weak, and prove their worth in battle. One act of bravery could elevate a knight to the status of legend, while a single moment of dishonour could lead to disgrace. Despite the dangers and hardships, the path to knighthood was one of the most respected roles in medieval Europe. To be a knight was to stand among the elite warriors of Christendom, a path that not everyone could walk. But for those who endured, the reward was glory, prestige, and a legacy that could echo through history. Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon.